Our objective all along has been to relaunch meaningful final status negotiations in a context that offered the prospect for success. We have never identified the steps requested as ends in themselves. We have always made clear that they are means to an end, the end being the relaunching of negotiations on permanent status in a context in which there is a reasonable prospect for a successful conclusion to those negotiations. So there is absolutely no change in our focus. There is no change in what we feel is the way forward. We want to get the negotiations relaunched, and everything we have said and done in this period has been in an effort to achieve that objective.
Can you give us some details about the format of the negotiations? Will the U.S. be at the table, or are they going to be only bilateral, or will be the quartet somehow involved?
We have had discussions with negotiators from both sides on those and many other issues. We anticipate that there will be a substantial period of time, I would say a matter of weeks, between the time that there is an agreement to relaunch negotiations and the time that they commence, and we will during that period explore in even greater detail than we have the resolution of those issues. We anticipate that there will be an active United States presence, but of course that does not preclude the likelihood of direct negotiations between the parties. No successful negotiation is all of one or all of the other. There has to be both in appropriate circumstances on appropriate subjects, and we're going to try to proceed in a manner that is guided by a single standard. What is the method that will be best calculated to achieve the desired result of a comprehensive peace in the region?
Jonathan, can I ask you if you've got any more details on who is going to participate in the intensive talks in New York this week, in Washington next week, and what realistically can Secretary Clinton report back to President Obama so quickly? He said mid-October, right?
Right. I will meet on Thursday in New York with two representatives of the Prime Minister of Israel, Itzhak Moho and Mike Herzog, both of whom have participated very actively in the discussions that have gone on. I also will meet with Saeb Erekat in behalf of the Palestinians, with whom also we've had extensive discussions. I expect also to meet with Israeli Minister of Defense Ehud Barak, with whom I've also met on many, many occasions. We do not yet know the composition of the negotiators that they will send next week, but we anticipate that they will be the same ones, either those I mentioned or people with whom we have also been engaged over the past several months.
How directly was the issue of a settlement freeze discussed? Did you push the U.S. view that they were illegal?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, go ahead. What's the question?
How directly was the issue of the freeze on settlements discussed, and was there any pushing of what I understand is the U.S. position that they are illegal?
Our position remains unchanged. It was discussed in all of the meetings, and we will continue to do the best we can to achieve a relaunch of negotiations. I want to emphasize our objective from the beginning, over the last several months, has been very focused, the relaunch of negotiations. The actions we've asked parties to take were not ends in themselves. They were means to the end, and that's the end we continue to seek.
And is this the obstacle now? Is it still the obstacle?
I'm sorry?
Is it still the obstacle, the settlements?
There are many obstacles. They're not, I want to make clear, there are differences that remain. And that is one, that's not the only one. There are others. We have substantially and significantly progressed in reducing the number of issues on which there is disagreement. We hope to complete that process in the near future.
Senator Mitchell, does the President support the Israeli proposal for a temporary freeze of settlements for 6 to 9 months? Does he support that? A temporary freeze of settlements?
We are continuing our discussions on that issue with both sides on how best to create the context for a relaunching of negotiations. And the... All right, sorry. Look,
we had in the Senate and peace in the Middle East, the respect doesn't come.
We had worked that out so that you do that when I get a tough question. From now on, you got to do a little bit better in terms of timing. And so that's what we are continuing our discussions on. We have not reached an agreement on that issue.
And do you think the temporary freeze will be enough to move to the final status negotiations? Does the President still insist that he wants to see a complete freeze of settlement activity?
We are continuing our discussions on that issue, and we're trying to bring it to a point where we can relaunch the negotiations, and we discuss it with both sides.
Michael.
Senator Mitchell, over here. Sorry. I want to push you on this question of I know you said there hasn't been a change in what you guys are doing. However, since the administration has been in office, you guys have been pushing very hard on the settlement issue and not talking as much about moving directly to final status talks. And so I guess I'm wondering, was there any discussion in the meetings today that changes or alters the approach to moving quickly to final status talks? Yeah. And if not, then why the sort of apparent change in rhetoric from the President?
With the greatest of respect, I do not share your characterization of what we have done. It may be the case that the public reports have emphasized that area at the expense of others. But we have been very clear from the beginning. First, that there is a wide range of issues. And we have made significant progress on those issues, and that they were all directed to a single point, and that was a relaunch of negotiations. I'll just tell you a story to tell you how I'm feeling right now. When I was Senate Majority Leader, we had a long and contentious series of debates and actions on a major issue. And we had resolved what I thought were most of the issues. There were still differences. And lo and behold, a big article appeared, I think it was in the Washington Post, which, wouldn't you know it, highlighted the differences and proclaimed it a failure. And I asked the reporter, in a polite but complaining way,
from the Washington Post.
And he responded. He said, "Senator, you will never see a headline that says 2 million commuters made it safely to work today. But if one car crashes and a couple of people are killed, that will be the headline." He said, "That's the way the world works." And I accept that's the way the world works. But the emphasis which you describe has not come from us. We have emphasized, I have repeatedly said, our objective is to relaunch negotiations. And all of these are steps to achieve that end. And we have made significant progress in many of the areas. Economic growth, very substantial. Agreement on the removal of illegal outposts. A whole series of other actions regarding specific areas that I understand don't get attention precisely because we've passed the stage of disagreement over them. So we're going to continue our efforts. We believe that we have come a long way, that there's a very decisive difference in where we are now than where we were when the President took office. And we feel a sense of urgency to take it the next step and to bring it to a conclusion.
Can you start final status negotiations without the settlement issue being resolved? Should that happen?
We are not identifying any issue as being a precondition or an impediment to negotiation. Neither the President nor the Secretary nor I have ever said of any one issue, that or any other, that it is a precondition to negotiations. What we have said is that we want to get into negotiations. We believe the suggestions that we've made and the requests that we've made would, if accepted and acted upon, create the most favorable conditions available to try to achieve success in those negotiations. But we do not believe in preconditions, we do not impose them, and we urge others not to impose preconditions.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.